You know, when the proxies throw shots and mudslingers and aspirants' faces are more than ever seen in the public, it tells only one thing: it's the election around the corner. And it's Africa's most populous nation's elections, keenly followed country and continent defining, and the hope of many generations. That these hopes don't get dashed is why we can't stop talking about the issues ahead of the 2023 elections in Nigeria, here on VSA. Welcome, I'm Sulaiman. Well, the days are counting down and the names are coming up. Issues are being discussed around the country. Aspirants are getting weighed. Regions are staking a claim and parties are playing the game. Today, former Imo State Governor in Nigeria's Southeast region, a current senator and a three-time presidential aspirant, Rochas Okorocha, has announced his intention to become Nigeria's next president. Like Okorocha, many have thrown their hearts into the ring for Nigeria's presidency, including Kingsley Moghalu, a former deputy governor of Nigeria's central bank. Currently, there are debates over who the next president should be and where he or she should come from. Talks about equity, fairness, and justice are now an everyday discourse in the Nigerian political arena as the Southeast lays claim to a moment believed to be its now. There are also the issues of INEC, its competence to hold a free, fair, and credible election, pending electoral bill, and the bimodal voter accreditation system recently introduced by the electoral umpire. The people are watching, looking on, and up to see where their interests are best represented. Well, joining me now is Dr. Kingsley Moghalu, presidential aspirant. Good to see you, and thank you for your time. Well, it looks like deja vu. We had this conversation leading up to the 2019 election, and we're here again, and that this time is looking even better. But the conversation is also around zoning. Does zoning and the shifting of powers between regions help Nigeria's leadership recruitment process at the moment?
You're saying, sorry, you were saying?
The effect of zoning, if this is something that can always, that can help change the dynamics leading up to this 2023 election in Nigeria.
Oh, yes. I mean, certainly it can. Zoning can change the dynamics. And zoning is something that is peculiar to Nigeria and some countries, and is a reflection of the peculiarities of the country. Now, I believe, though, personally, that the most important thing is competence in leadership selection. Now, you can look for competence wherever in the context of zoning, because, of course, you have capable people from every part of Nigeria. And so while I recognize zoning, for me, as a potential candidate, the basis on which I offer myself to Nigerians is not where I come from. It is my vision for the country and what I think I can bring and my capacity to execute that vision. So that's the way I look at it. For me, the first thing is the vision, the competence, the capacity, but I recognize the practical importance of zoning and rotations.
Well, let's dig in deep now, because you've highlighted the, one very important thing here, competence, which is something that a lot of Nigerians will be interested in looking at. But again, quite frankly, you're just one of the very few who are, is still very much around since after the last election. So what has kept your faith? Because some of those aspirants or candidates all fizzled out. But you've been there till this moment, talking to the people and also giving, where you need to critique, you've been doing that, and where you need to give some other advice, you've been doing that. So let us in on your style of politics?
Well, I believe in the politics of transformation. I believe in mobilization at the level of the grassroots and the youth, especially, to create a new and different future for our country. I believe our politics is broken, but I'm also practical enough to know that poverty, is a big factor. People have been deliberately impoverished by the traditional political class so that their votes can be bought. And so alongside, everything else, we must undertake a major political education campaign. I am also sustained by, just sheer fortitude internally. And of course, the near success, I should say success, because we're just hoping for President Buhari to sign the bill of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill so that our democracy can improve and selection can be more transparent because of electronic transmission of votes.
You're vastly experienced. By the way, I still have a copy of your book, and I have gone through that many times. And you've worked in top local and international organizations, and as an average Nigerian will say, you are exposed. Now, so putting these experiences on board, what do you think is the problem in Nigeria, and how can it be fixed?
Well, the problem with the electoral process or the problem with Nigeria broadly?
Nigeria broadly speaking.
Well, if it's Nigeria, the problem with Nigeria more broadly is that Nigeria is a country in search of nationhood. So it's not yet a nation. In reality, it's a country. It has many nations inside the country. Because of that, there is no common vision about what Nigeria means, where Nigeria is going, and how Nigeria should get to where it's going. So I believe that what needs to happen is that a leader who has a clear vision in answer to these questions about what Nigeria should be, where it should be going, how we should get there in unity and hard work, needs to emerge. The traditional political class can never provide that kind of vision. But Nigerians, because the electorate is not sophisticated, the electorate is not educated, they're not, and then of course, the disunity in the electorate in terms of allegiances to ethnic and other interests prevents the electorate from actually acting in its own interest to select the kind of leadership that the country needs to move forward. So the electorate is also part of the problem that we're having, because the electorate itself, sometimes they know what they should do, but they don't do it. They don't do it either because somebody is giving them money or because somebody is a candidate that comes from their own ethnic group. And so they're voting for the wrong kinds of people. And then they turn around and complain for the next 4 years. This is what we hope we will avoid in 2023, because 2023 is make or break for Nigeria. There's just no time to stand and stare. The country is so far down in terms of its economy, in terms of its security, in terms of so many things, that we need that transformational leader to emerge in 2023. And I am offering myself as that person to Nigerians. So I hope to be a candidate with that sort of message. And everybody can check out my background. I believe I can execute that vision if I'm given the opportunity.
Well, I think now that we're already in it, I recall in 2019 there was a loud cry for the third force, and many Nigerians thought it was a major movement at that time and could wrestle power from the non-political class, which you also highlighted earlier, until we saw what became of that movement. Does the third force have a chance again in Nigeria with Nigerians, and what do you think was the failure of the third force in 2019?
Well, I believe there's a possibility for a third force in 2023. Again, a number of people are coming together, but the big difference between 2019 and 2023 is that in 2019, it was a movement of individuals. In 2023, we are making it a negotiation, practical negotiation between political parties, which is the only way it can work. And this is what some of us advocated in 2019, but some people among us were not patient enough, either because of their own vested interests or other reasons, to take a slower but more concrete approach to a third force emerging. But in 2023, it's a discussion among political parties, and I think there may be a merger or coalition of parties that will emerge very soon, to provide a credible alternative to the traditional politicians for the 2023 presidential elections.
You've just defined that election as a break or, make election, talking about the 2023 election. And we've also seen past, leaders, specifically former President Ibrahim Babangida and a few others, all talking about the age and health as a factor in the coming election. Looking at the two, major parties, existing major parties, the APC and the PDP, and also looking at some of the known faces that we have seen over time, what are those things you expect of Nigerians now that even the older ones are saying, wait a minute, we need the very young to steer the affairs of Nigeria? Are there things that could revolutionize the politics in Nigeria that only the young could actually fix?
Yes, I think a number of factors are in place for a potential shift in 2023. One of them is, of course, the youth of Nigeria and the experience of EndSARS. EndSARS, I think, has politically awakened Nigerian youth who in 2019 were still a bit apathetic in politics. So young people can now see that their own future is directly involved in the outcome in 2023. Another fact that could bring change is the fact that things are simply so bad. Between 2019 and now, the economy has gone down so badly. Poverty has risen. Insecurity has exploded. And so Nigerians are facing an existential threat, a country in which lives have increasingly no value. And people have to ask themselves, can politics as usual solve this problem? The third thing that could also bring about a significant shift is implosions inside the APC and the PDP. As we see, there's a lot of jostling inside those parties. We see a lot of divisions. And this could, I believe, the APC and the PDP will enter this election much weaker than they were in 2019. So there is an opportunity for a third party, to actually appeal directly to the people, go to the grassroots, bring out the young people, and come out with a message that could create an upset, basically a disruption, a political disruption of the existing order. It's possible, and that's where people like myself belong.
Yeah, you're one of the very few Nigerians who went around the country leading up to the 2019 elections, all
Yes.
6 geopolitical zones. I recall then you went really round and deeper as well.
Yes, so I visited about 30 states, yes.
So what's the conversation like presently, especially now that we're talking about perhaps, a seeming implosion of the APC and the PDP that the very young can actually latch onto as we expect a third force? Is there a third force in the making already, or we're waiting for that implosion to happen so that, it can actually give birth to the third force?
No, there is a third force in the making. Negotiations are already going on, and I believe that within the next few weeks, within the next 1 month, I think there will be some very interesting developments, emergencies, and announcements. So I think a third force discussion has gone very far. It's not waiting for the implosion in the APC or PDP, but could benefit from those implosions if and when they happen.
I'll come back to you just a minute. Let's bring in Uche Onyegocha here, who is a human rights lawyer and former Imo State governorship candidate. He joins me by phone. Honorable Onyegocha, thank you for your time and thanks for your patience. And quickly here, I've been having this conversation with Professor Moghalu on the coming elections, and we're also talking about a third force. At the Anambra governorship election, INEC test ran the beavers, and it wasn't a great success. Now, as you get ready for the next election, do you think something like a mock election should be held to perfect these strategies? Well, that sounded means, well, I lost that call. I'll come back to Professor Moghalu. Well, it's a moment, you know, that Nigerians are looking up to. And I want us to go back to the third force because now that you hear they're watching, they'll like to have, you know, more understanding of how it's likely going to play out. Quite frankly, some of those who were with you in that last election have moved camp. These are people who still believe that is either the APC or the PDP. It's amazing that you have a much stronger faith as some other Nigerians that certainly a third force will come. What if that doesn't happen and your team and, you know, followers want you to latch onto any of the existing two big parties? Are you considering that as an option?
Well, look, as I say, one of the lessons I've learned in politics is that, you know, you can never say never. But, you know, I have explained to you, even if a third force does not emerge, I mean, I have a political party, the ADC. So, you know, I'm a party member, and I would hope to get my party's ticket for the presidential elections. That would be my hope. But I'm also aware of practical discussions that are taking place between the ADC, the African Democratic Congress, and several other parties to merge and form a coalition that is much bigger so that we will have more strength. So I would hope that the third force discussions don't work. But if for any reason, I would hope that the third force discussions work. Sorry, forgive me. But, you know, from a point of view of risk management, there is a fallback position, which is that I am a member of a political party.
Now let's talk a bit about you. You were born in Lagos, and at some point in time, you lived in the East. What ideas, you know, does this give you about the diversity of Nigeria?
Nigeria is a very, very diverse country. Yes, I was born in Lagos. My names are Kingsley Ayodele Moghalu, so I have a Yoruba name as well.
Oh, I never knew that, honestly.
Yes. The late Mrs. Fumilayo Ransom Kuti, Fela's mother, was my godmother when I was born, and she gave me the Yoruba name Ayodele, which means joy has come home. You know, so, and I am from ethnic origin, Igbo, and I've lived in various parts of the country in my life, and I've also lived and worked abroad as a professional. So, but I am very comfortable with the diversity of Nigeria, and one of the things we need today is a leader who can manage that diversity. That's part of nation building. Very fundamental part of nation building, managing diversity, building institutions. And again, from somebody who has worked as a deputy governor of the central bank, as a governor of one of the governors of the central bank, I have managed diverse teams across the whole country. People who come from the northern part, Hausas, Fulanis, people who are Yorubas, Igbos, minorities, Christians, Muslims. As a United Nations official in leadership positions, I have managed teams of different races. The UN is the mother of all diversities. And I think that's very important diversity training that helped me to be very successful when I was in the central bank. So I am, I appreciate the diversity of our country, and I believe that we can use that diversity as an advantage, bringing the strengths of each ethnic group, each religious group, to build our country. But we have to raise our allegiance to be an allegiance to the citizenship of Nigeria, rather than an allegiance to our ethnic groups. Unfortunately, today, because of incompetent leadership, in my view, a lot of Nigeria has become very divided. And so many people have retreated to the cocoon of their ethnic identities. And I think this is just not good at all. And it needs to be, changed. The conversation needs to change. But for that to happen, the leader, the president, will set the right tone. So we have to be very careful in who becomes the next president of Nigeria. It's critical to whether or not Nigeria can actually move to become a nation, or whether we will continue along the lines of our fragmentation.
Anytime I ask of anyone about, their growing up years, I watch out for that, tingling, joy and emotion about how it is growing up. And I got that listening to you telling us, your journey so far, and also the story of who your godmother is. And now, this is Nigeria. And I also see that you have great hopes for this country. Now, that brings us to one of the key things you highlighted earlier on, the electoral, amendment bill. Now, how important is the electoral, amendment bill to the future of this particular election you have dubbed a make or mar election?
Well, I was one of those, alongside other members of civil society or other members of political parties, the diplomatic corps, and many, many interests that came together, because from the experience of the 2019 election, which was heavily flawed, it became very clear that democracy has no future in Nigeria if the electoral framework is not amended, upgraded, and made a lot more transparent, which is what we're hoping that this act will accomplish. The possibility to transmit votes electronically to the INEC server in the presence of everybody, the representatives of political parties, we hope will reduce rigging significantly. So this also has implications for apathy towards politics among young people. Many young people will tell you that they don't vote because the elections will be rigged. They'll tell you our votes don't count. They'll tell you there's a lot of electoral violence. For those reasons, they stay away. When they stay away, then the will of the people is not expressed, and corrupt politicians can rig elections. We're hoping we will begin in 2023 a shift away from this, because many more people, we hope, will register to vote in the knowledge or in the assurance that their votes are much more likely to count this time than was the case in the past.
Now you're talking about young Nigerians, looking at your social media, I see that you have a rich, social media, and by every good number, some great amount of elites. Now, results in previous elections have also shown that the votes mainly come from the locals in the towns and markets. So, do you think your campaign and projections have reached that demographic enough for this coming election?
We are beginning our work on that. We are deploying across all the states, across all the local government areas, going down into the wards. I believe that one of the things that we will bring to this election, hopefully, hoping that one becomes a candidate of his party or third force, is the grassroots game, the ground game. So yes, we recognize the importance. Social media is important to reach a lot of people as well, young people and many others who are also citizens of Nigeria. But there's no polling booth on social media. The real game, I continue to believe, is on the ground, and we are mobilizing at that level. And I believe that within the next 4 months, maximum 5, our structures will be completely set up down to polling units across the whole country. So yes, we believe that the ground game is very important to reach the rural people, the urban slums, and many people who actually vote. But what this means is that our young people and our middle-class elite in urban areas must get into the political process this time around. We have to also create a new electorate of people who were not voting before but have decided to come in to vote for 2023. I think that's necessary to balance the equation.
That's another angle you just raised, especially for first-time voters.
Yes, it's very important, because if you leave the electorate just to the people who vote in rural areas, the politicians have mastered the art of, just buying their votes. So many people, anybody who wants change for this country, anybody who wants a better future for our country, should know that they must register in the continuing voter registration process and actually come out and vote. 28 million people voted in 2019 out of 84 million registered voters. That is a scandal. That is shameful. We should not have anything less than 45 to 50 million people voting in 2023. Anything less than that would be disappointing. And we as people must understand that our future depends on us. God is not going to come down and change Nigeria for us. So we can complain all we like. If we stay out of politics, if we don't vote, and if we don't vote for the right kinds of candidates, then we will live with the mess that we ourselves have created through our apathy.
Well, you ran under the YPP in 2019, and you're vying under the ADC now. Other than the change of parties, what's different in your approach this time around?
Well, yes, I'm a member of the African Democratic Congress, the ADC. Please don't confuse that with the APC. I'm going to be applying, and people who support me will be applying as well the lessons we have learned in 2019, which is that organization, a structure, is helpful. It matters a lot. We're also paying attention to the matter of financial resources, because it is also a very important determinant of electoral performance.
And honestly, sorry to cut you there, I was actually getting in there, because we can't deny how expensive participating in an election is in Nigeria. And I was going to ask you, Professor Moghalu, how do you plan on solving the challenge of finances?
Yes, that's true. Yeah, we are working to raise resources, including through, crowdfunding, but also just appealing to donors in the normal way, fundraising is a very critical issue that we're paying attention to, because we don't want to go into this financially weak. It takes money to advertise effectively. It takes money to set up structures across 774 local government areas. We are practical, far more practical now than in 2019. And we recognize that financial resources are key, and we're working to raise them. So again, this is another thing that is different from what my campaign will be in 2019, hopefully as a candidate, from in 2023, hopefully as a candidate, from what it was in 2019.
Well, Professor Kingsley Moghalu, would like to thank you for your time and wish you the best of luck. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you.
It's been a good conversation with some of Nigeria's best and political hopefuls in the 2023 elections. I'm Sulaiman Aledeh. Many thanks for watching.